Good evening, everyone. I want to invite everyone to take a seat for the presentation of the night. We live in a time of unprecedented change, and that's really the reason why we're here tonight. It's clear that there is going to be winners and losers because of AI, and the goal tonight is to prepare us so we are from the winners. Personally, I have been a technical recruiter for the past couple of years since starting DevX Staffing. We recruit in technology, software developers, tech leads, and everything in between, and I've never had that many positions open at once. It appears that as the models become stronger, companies are hiring even more. So if you know someone that is hiring or you're looking to hire, or the same as if you're looking for a job or know someone that is looking for a job, send them my way. I would love to help. I do want to thank the Met Council, the host of the evening, for providing the venue. It's the second time they do it, and the accommodations are beautiful. So everyone, please, a round of applause. I don't think Moshe Teitelbaum needs an introduction. He's the founder of CherryNet and has been an integral part of the Frum Tech community for a long time. And I'm so excited that Moshe accepted my request to present tonight. I don't know if you know, but Moshe is really the first that started all of this in 2016 with the Yidla group. Anyone here that remembers or was there? Well, not a lot. I guess AI changed a lot of things. But Moshe, mic is yours.
So at Cherry, we're processing now close to $1 billion a month in accounts payable, vendor payment. And for the last 18 months, we're trying to figure out what can we use AI to make our system better, to make it more usable. And it's a question that we keep on asking ourselves. We came up with some ideas, and we'll try to share them tonight. So we'll start with a question. The question is two companies in the same industry in finance. One is building a CFO assistant that does everything: forecasting, budgeting, cash flow, everything that a finance team does with AI. Or another company that is doing one feature, a basic feature. Whatever transaction comes into your bank, you get an exact message, what it is, what it does, and what's it related to. In your head, you don't have to commit out loud. What do you think? Which company in 18 months later made more revenue? So, although most of you probably answered in your head company A, they're doing everything and they're eliminating employees, and that's the classic case study for every SaaS company and B2B business application for the last many years. The reality is, it's not just a theoretical question. The last couple of years we have seen that with AI in a similar fashion. So it started with Cursor. Cursor went very narrow. They released an IDE, that there is AI. And they were announced as being the fastest B2B growing company. OpenAI and Anthropic both actually have adopted the same idea. Nobody is telling you write code with Claude, code with ChatGPT. They built Codex and they built Claude Code. Just to show you numbers in terms of revenue, Claude Code, by the end of 2024, had $1 billion. Anthropic had $1 billion in revenue end of 2024. End of 2025, they were already at $25 billion. End of 25, they were at $9 billion. The last 4 months, they went up to $30 billion, and mostly from Claude Code and APIs. So, you can call that. That we'll figure out later. But on their run rate, they're probably going to be surpassing OpenAI by the end of the year. Everybody, the entire market understands that narrow workflows beats broad capabilities in every step. And why is it? The simple version, there's this answer that we like to answer ourselves. Everybody wants to have the thing that answers his need. The developer wants the library that fixes what he needs right now. The buyer and the finance team wants to fix their problem. And everybody thinks it's a simple, this is the straight answer. I may be wrong, and you may disagree with me, but I believe the answer is much more complex than that, to a point that I believe narrow is never a strategy. It's the consequences of how humans behave. And the human behavior is much more complex. It involves trust, habits, friction tolerance, integrity, and an idea that I'm going to introduce, which is the lowest denominator user is setting the pace for everyone. And I will try to unpack it tonight, and bear with me until the end, how I got to where I got it. So, back to Cherry. 18 months ago, we decided what are we doing? AI is coming up, what are we building? And we decided to build an autonomous AP. And we have built a full system. Okay, we have learned that not to build the entire system, so we built bots with some fake stuff, running some stuff, and try to see how much the user engaged and where they get stuck. Where is the user, until how far we can schlep the user. We tried one way, we tried the other way. Consistently, not once. 8 projects, all failed miserably. We couldn't get the user to bite on anything AI. And it was tough. So we went back and we tried to look at patterns, try to look at what worked in the past. And that's when we kind of create a research project. And it started out with the research going back to the dot-com bust. What worked, what didn't work. $5 trillion was lost in the dot-com bubble. And they weren't wrong mostly. The ideas were definitely not wrong. They were wrong about the human. Webvan raised somewhere around $800 million. They crashed in 2001. Instacart is now worth over $10 billion, I think. Pets.com, the same thing. Now worth, Chewy's worth over $30 billion at its peak. And DoorDash with Cosmo. DoorDash is now $60 billion. Cosmo, I think, lost $1 billion market cap, $280 million invested money, totally lost. Same ideas, same vision, just a different outcome. So what did they miss? There's a talk from Jeff Bezos saying that most people are asking what's going to change in the next 10 years. Very few are asking what's not going to change in the next 10 years. And the second question creates for better outcomes. Webvan, Pets.com, Cosmo, they all bet on what would change, how humans will behave different. The survivors, Amazon, Google, eBay, they all bet on something that the humans have not changed. People always want answers. People always want a cheaper price, and people always want to have a place where they can sell stuff. So after digging a lot, nights, conversations with my partner, Zelig Rosenthal, I don't know if people know him, he actually introduced me to a new idea, and he called it the human element. The human element is the gap that is between what the technology can do and the human is ready to adopt. And most companies are not calculating for that. We're trying to use the best tech and the best stuff to push the human to expect that the human will get there. Everybody is building for a human who fully trusts AI. A human that allows AI to move money. A human that wants the machine to do everything. Essentially, if you're building for that, that human may actually show up eventually. But it's definitely not going to be this year, and probably not in the next 2 years. It is actually the most expensive thing to ignore when building a new product. We came up with, actually, my partner introduced me to a question. When was the last man toll booth in New York State? In 2024, to be exact. When was the first time EasyPass was introduced? Anybody knows? 1992. Which means 32 years from it was first introduced until it was completely adopted. That it wasn't even adopted, it was enforced adopted. The state decided to remove all man, toll booth, and deal with it. Cell phones. Cell phones was launched in the 90s. By now, we have only reached this year 90% of adoption, which is the most valuable consumer product ever released. It's still only at 90% of adoption. Adoption will always follow the slowest person and the slowest user, and you need to build for that. Companies who will build for their early adopters will fail because their laggards cannot use their product. And the 32 years that it took for EasyPass to get adopted, it's not because people are slow. It took 32 years because that old lady who doesn't trust automatic charges, or the trucker who doesn't want to be tracked his hours of driving and he doesn't want to have a tag in his cab. People have ulterior motives, ulterior reasons why they don't want to adopt, and you need to account for that. And if you forget that, you can't build. The survivors, if you will look at the list of survivors, the survivors always bet on something that people are already there. They're in different industries, but the same outcome. Amazon bet on something that was true in 95 and it's still true in 2026. Humans want faster shipping, lower prices, and they've never lost on that. Airbnb is actually the one that really gets me, because nobody would have been able to predict people living in strangers' houses. But they only did it when communal ratings were already trusted. Amazon has built a very strict and narrow place how trust is built on the internet with ratings. And they were crazy at first, blocking people, even blocking sellers. But at the time when they launched, communal ratings were already an accepted reality. So Airbnb only had to design the architecture in order for people to accept what they already accepted. NVIDIA bet on humans better graphics forever. That was their tagline. And it's still true today with better AI. Different industries, different decades, none of them bet on humans changing. They actually bet on what humans already wanted. And that's a very strong factor. We're actually watching it right now, happening right now in real time. autonomous drivers. There are 2 places in the United States where there is. The car is here, but the humans are not here. Autonomous agents. Last year, many companies released autonomous agents by the request of people, but nobody adopted it, especially not in production. Anthropic Mythos was actually an argument between me and my partner, what was the reason why it wasn't released. And essentially, even the labs understand that they couldn't trust humans with it, which is again something that is showing the human element. So what is the human element? It's definitely not better UX, more features. It's something what people are actually willing to trust, do, and repeat. That's the line. Although we know AI to be in some areas way better than humans, we cannot trust them. They will flag tumors, but we'll trust our cardiologists more than the AI. Humans will say what they want, but the reality is you got to look what they do and how they do it in order for them. So habits is very strong. You have to look at the habits of the user before you can accept that. And we always need to have logs to see what changed, what caused something. A black box is something it's very hard for us to accept in many areas. Friction tolerance is something every industry has different, and so these are the 5 things that we believe consists of human element, the human element that we need to account for. In the gap between what's technically possible and what people are ready to do. In short, scrappy with trust beats perfection without it. So there's 2 questions we constantly ask ourselves before building anything. On every bet, every product, what's the human truth that we're betting on? And has the customer actually shown up for that in that way before? If the answer is yes, we build it. If the answer is no, we're not a lab, we're not a university, we don't work with predictions. So the question I opened with, 2 companies, one broad, one narrow, the narrow wins. That same question Zelig and I have been wrestling for months. Not whether narrow wins. We knew that narrow wins. The question is, where do we go narrow? When you process $1 billion a month, people don't allow us to do any experiments. So this is not a theoretical question. Where in the $1 trillion industry do we go narrow? We tried autonomous AP, it didn't work, so what can we do? So we started with three narrowings. One for each about what we see that what we don't think humans will ever change. The fear is real, so we went very narrow on what AI can do inside Cherry. We've built an AI that the AI can only build algorithmic tools. It can only build database functions. That can be, every step is logged. The auditor can always see what happened, when, and why. So concretely, the first thing we built is an invoice logic. A customer can define any type of invoice and what type of logic it should do. It all gets done. The AI doesn't decide what it should do. The customer decides, and our system then repeats it. We realized that humans follow other humans, so we built a tiny community. We went very narrow on how we built. We built a community of people who were sharing their ideas in email. They were constantly emailing us what we need to do next and how we should do things differently. We gave them access to a limited AI function where they can actually build stuff around the boundaries that we have set. And we don't build for them, they build themselves. And we understand that adoption is earned. We went very narrow on distribution. We don't push. All the new products are used by the builders, by their companies, by their colleagues, and we let them spread it out to get greater adoption. We don't build it, they build it. They build it with our tools and with our boundaries. User-generated content build the internet. We somehow have a belief that user-generated systems may build the future of AI, and we're trying to build that. So, if nothing else from tonight, I want to give you the 3 rules that it's the strongest that I believe everybody should take, and it's not about AI. None of them is about AI. When you build something, stop predicting how humans will change, because they won't. Start where the human already is, and take the human who is already there and build for that human. Don't expect anybody else to show up. That's where all the winners won in the past. And that's where you can win. I will finish up with the statement that my partner keeps on hounding on our team over and over again. Never underestimate the human element. And that line actually changed how I look at things, how I look at products, how I look at security, and how I look at everything. Underestimating the human element is the most expensive thing any developer can do. So if any of this resonates with you, and I would like to talk about anything we do, I'm here. Any questions?
There's always going to be some guinea pig that starts the trend and fails.
You can say a guinea pig, or it's a user that's already using your system. He's already drawing you a cup and he's making you crazy to make this change and to put that in. You let him do it on his own. The only question becomes, is it worth building a product that only one customer will use? And that's kind of how you can build around it. But essentially, if you have a product, if you have business, it's not if you want to build from scratch, that is something else, and I don't have the right framework to tell you what to do. But if you have customers and you have to take them in consideration, that is, the best way is use your customers to build with them, for them, and take them to the next level. You can start with the Discord, where one message allows people to build something cool, and it gets to their interface and only their interface within even 10 hours, which means nothing is live, nothing is, technically you can start it very, very primitive if you want.
Why didn't agents work? You mentioned in the beginning like option 1, like option A on 2 slides. Why didn't it work?
Why option A didn't work?
Yeah.
People didn't want to do it. Nobody clicked. Even the customers who were emailing us with stuff and we asked them, write it in the bot, let the bot do it for you. They wouldn't. They wouldn't. Even if they did, it was very cautious. They were afraid. We gave them a feeling of a sandbox environment that didn't work. We tried everything.
Just the users didn't do it, or the agents didn't do it right?
No, the users didn't do it. We didn't need agents. The agents we can fake.
For customer service, for what type of
We're doing AP automation, so we're everything around AP, invoice automation, processing, approvals, and that stuff. vendor communication, dispute management, a lot of details, but essentially to get people to use AI, there needs to be a strong level of carelessness, or let's not call it careless, regardless of the outcome is acceptable. It's almost like I heard recently from someone, developing with AI is the next gaming rush. Because you're playing with something that gives you an immediate reward, and you're always pushing to the next boundary, and if it works or it doesn't work, it doesn't matter, you push the boundary. And but in reality, for the people in the room who are trying to build stuff that actually makes money, that actually improves the bottom line, or somehow improves something, we need to have something real.
Shopify has a good AI agent to create reports. Have you seen it?
Nope.
You've seen it? It's amazing. People use it all the time.
Okay, it creates reports, but what can the report do?
So exactly, you're going to make decisions off those reports.
You can make decisions off that report, but the question is how reliable is that report to make decisions off that?
Because the report is deterministic. The AI
Is the report deterministic? That's the question, because this is what actually we are doing. We only allowed the AI to build something that becomes deterministic.
AI builds the query for you, and the final data is compiled deterministic.
And you have to make sure that the query can only be within your boundaries. This is basically what we're doing, but we allow actually people to build off these reports, automation and stuff based on that.
Shopify already had one of the building blocks because they have their own custom query language that they already exposed to their users anyhow.
Okay,
So they let the AI write that.
okay.
Well, it's the way we're doing the programming. We're using the AI to build something that's deterministic. We don't trust
That's the entire thing.
the AI to actually
That-
build the AI in process code, just to write the code. No?
That's what it should be, but are you sure this is what happens?
You said like DoorDash that took years to get implemented. Wasn't that the technology wasn't there yet? Like GPS signals weren't.
Is GPS the thing that made DoorDash successful and Cosmo didn't? Uber is one thing, but Cosmo got as much as money as DoorDash did in the early days, and they lost. The people were not there. We didn't need.
Was it the technology? Was the people? What changed about the people? People were just more comfortable with having other people.
People were more comfortable with relying on people on. You can say that DoorDash did it on a niche market and started with something and expanded from there. That's the thing. That's what I was saying. I started going narrow is not an architectural decision. It's a derivative of the human element. You have to start very narrow in order to get to the place where you can get some users to adopt and trust you, and from that narrow place you can expand. If you remember Amazon at first with sellers, they were extremely strict with many things. That was on a level that's extremely hard to circumvent because they wanted to make sure they have trust. Even after the books, ratings was at first they were extremely tough on that. These are the things that they had to go narrow in order to get the human to adapt to it. But it's not that they wanted to go narrow.
What about internally in your own business? You have business users who use AI.
Your business use that's not
The same issue.
no, because your business use you can.
Tell your business users, I have this workflow for you. It's going to make you 50% more efficient.
What do you mean? I don't get the
I don't know,
question.
I don't know.
Explain your question.
Depends on the business, right? Every business has processes that are handled by customer service, account representatives, account managers, and stuff like
You have to be very careful what they can do and what they cannot do.
that. Sure.
Okay.
Are there the same dynamics?
Internally, you probably can force your users to do, but yeah, you have to be very careful how you do
I
it.
want to know what your experience is. Do you have experience with getting
No,
people?
that's not something I've worked on. I can't answer you that. I'm trying to theorize, but I don't have an actual answer. Any other questions? Exactly. Even that's also a point that I didn't point out. Amazon started as a bookstore. People didn't care where they buy it from or how it feels. So long as they get the book, they're good enough with it. Exactly. These are the things that you have to constantly look where the adoption started and where do you go narrow, because going narrow is not a strategy. You need to understand why you go narrow in this place in order to get wide in the other. Yeah. They even on AWS, if you go into AWS, at first they only had 2 products. They were so narrow, 2 services that they sold, and it was almost not worked only for a specific category of people, until now they have, I don't know, thousands of services they're selling. It's not only, even if the technology would have been there, if they would have launched with more, they would have been dead. That's the point. And that's what we're trying to see. If you want to build something that you shouldn't die, build something that will make sure that you stay alive. What? What would bring them down? No user adoption. No user adoption. The only thing that kills a company is when they have no user adoption. Now, AWS, that's an assumption. I'm not sure. Not so sure. I don't know the CapEx for it. It's a question. No, adoption doesn't mean 100%, but you need to be ready for 100%. But you need to, at least, the question is, at what number of adoption you're definitely dead? If you start a product that you only get 10% of your users using, and you have no path of 100% of your users using within, it's again, if you have your own, it's not 60% of the market, it's 60% of your users. We're talking about existing companies, what you to build now for your next product in AI. I don't know about new products, new industries. That is a question on its own that's not necessarily so, you can use certain parts from it, but I'm not necessarily going to tell you the equation is the same. You definitely cannot build for 100% of the market. Exactly. But you need to understand narrow is not a strategy. Narrow is a derivative of the human element. That's the point I'm trying to make. Okay. Thank you.